Good morning, peeps. How are we all doing? Good, I hope. Right, today's video, it's a bit close to home for me in the fact that I woke this morning, didn't realise it. Today's the 24th of February, and 34 years ago today, I went to war, Gulf War 1991. Yeah, Op Granby, as the Brits called it, and Operation Desert Storm, as the Americans called it. Now, like I say, 34 years ago, I can't believe it's that long ago. Main reason being, I can virtually remember everything that happened to me during that time. I remember being briefed. The briefing we got was, one of the things was to ensure that we had plenty of bottled water on board, because the water and the sewage system in Baghdad was totally mucked up. So Stormy Norman and old DLB, Pete de la Billiere, yeah, had got it in their heads that we were going all the way. We were going to Baghdad. So we'd loaded up with water and everything like that. Now, I was attached to 39 Heavy Regiment Royal Artillery, which had MLRS, the first unit in the British Army to get the multi-launch rocket system. And I've done a video before about how when I got posted to them, I never thought in a million years they'd go to the Gulf. They'd only just got the kit. We hadn't even commissioned it. We hadn't even brought it into the British Army. But on the build up to 34 years today, while we were out in Saudi Arabia, we actually did the commissioning firing for the MLRS. And like I say, I've done a little video on that before. But we were leaguered up outside a place called Al Kasuma, which was on the border of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. We were in a little quarry at the time. Myself and my colleague Brian Isley had gone out and done the recce for the location, and then brought the workshops into there. Three people I'd like to mention who were with me. John Brook. There's a picture of me and John Brook just on Mutler Ridge with a welcome to Free Kuwait. The other one was a bloke called Dusty Miller. Real name was Colin. No one ever calls anyone by their real name. You should know that by now in the forces. Dusty Miller and Ernie Woodhouse. Those are the three main ones I'm going to talk about during this lot, because the four of us, wrote a little screed which was put into a magazine that was sent home to our families. Yeah, we did the first one before we actually went to war, just explaining the fact that we were out in Saudi and what we were up to. And we tried to make it humorous, which I believe we did. I'll have to post the script that we sent home on another video. But we tried to make it humorous. Like all squaddies, yeah, people say we've got a dark sense of humour. And we have. There's no two ways about it. We have got a dark sense of humour, because the main thing is, if we didn't have that dark sense of humour, yeah, we probably wouldn't survive. Yeah, we'd all be the nutters that people think that us veterans are. Yeah, it's just the fact that we have to laugh it off, otherwise we'd cry. So like I say, 24th of February, we went through the breach, which had been supplied by the Big Red One, yeah, American unit. They'd breached through the berms that surrounded Iraq and Saudi Arabia's border, and we went through. Now, as most of you will know, the war only lasted 100 hours. Yeah, and I don't think I got any sleep in that 100 hours. I cat-napped. Yeah, whenever we stopped, yeah, I managed to get a little 5-10 minute snooze, and then we carried on. But the move forward was so rapid, it was unbelievable. During the war, we actually lost people, not in 39, but in the British forces that were out there. There was a guy from the QDGs, Remy, yeah, that took on a T-55, yeah, to protect everyone. He was in a little auxiliary vehicle, but him and his driver with their SA-80s took on this T-55. Good morning, sir, how you doing? Unfortunately, those two lads, Mick Dowling and Frank Edwards, lost their lives. Yeah, but they were trying to check the other guys within their unit. Good morning, ladies. I'm friendly, honest. Yeah, they lost their lives. There were other people that lost their lives during the Gulf War. You've heard of the blue on blue incident with the Warrior vehicles that got hit. You've also probably heard of Bravo 20, where they lost guys on their mission as well. So we raced through and ended up just south of the Mutla Ridge. Now, because of the fact that I was doing reconnaissance for 39 Heavy, I ended up at Mutla Ridge probably about an hour after the A-10s and the Apaches had gone through and obliterated the place. Not a nice sight at all. But that's war, you know. That's what war's all about. People don't realise it. You know, you can't get away without seeing these things. So, like I say, we got through. There's some pictures I've got of myself, and this was at 11 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and when you see the pictures, you would think it was 11 o'clock in the evening. Yeah, and it was purely because the retreating army from the Iraqis set fire to the oil wells. And I'm stood next to my Land Rover, and like I say, it's completely black, absolutely black. So things like Gulf War syndrome, we're not allowed to call it Gulf War syndrome because they reckon it doesn't exist. It's not the right terminology. But due to the fact that we were expecting Saddam to hit us with biological and chemical warfare, we'd taken our naps. Yeah, most of the time, trying to get lads out of their NBC kit was a nightmare. Not the normal situation trying to get them into it. Because of the NIAID systems that we had that were totally faulty, yeah, absolutely useless, that were supposed to warn us if we were in the vicinity of a nerve agent in our area. But these things were constantly going off. So you're in your noddy kit, out your noddy kit, in your noddy kit, out your noddy kit. So you ended up with most blokes to say, stuff it, I'll stay in it. And I must admit, after we'd gone through the breach and I had kept going off, I actually slept in my respirator. Yeah, myself and John Brooke, who was on the truck with me, that we were keeping on. We actually kept in our respirators. Main reason being, we'd got up one morning and one of the lads who'd sort of banged on the door to come in, so we shouted out, unmask. Well, no one had told us that we needed to mask up. So, like I say, me and John made the decision we're going to keep in our respirators. Not the most comfortable sleep, I must admit. But like I say, it was a 100-day sort of battle, 100-hour battle. Everything about it was just so surreal. I know when the Falklands War kicked off, I'd been posted from my unit in Tidworth that was going down to the Falklands. I've been posted out to Germany to the Scots Dragoon Guards, and would you believe? Yeah, Nobs tipped up to his OC's office and asked to be sent back to his unit in Tidworth. Main reason being, the Falklands War was probably the first time that, since the end of the Second World War, where people have got the chance to put into practice all the training that they've done, yeah, for a major battle. So I volunteered my services, wanted to go back to my unit in Tidworth, and I got told by the OC that unfortunately I couldn't go. Yeah, I had to stay with my unit in Germany. And because it wasn't going to be an armoured war, I was attached to the Royal Scots Dragoon Guards at the time. There was no chance of me going down there. And as I've probably put before about the Gulf War, when I first got posted at 39 Heavy, I didn't think they would go down there because the equipment, they'd only had it probably about 3 or 4 months when I got there. You know, they weren't fully trained on it. So I never thought we'd go down. I got posted into the unit in the October. In the November, we got called into the cinema in the barracks and told that we were deploying out to Saudi Arabia. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Duly, in the December, we end up in Al Jabal at Blackadder Lines. But like I say, the actual run through Iraq, yeah, and leading into Kuwait was extremely quick. You didn't get a chance to blink. Really didn't. It was so rapid. Yeah. The Iraqi army had been demoralised. The 39 Heavy had been involved in the artillery raids, which, if I remember, started off around about the 18th of February. Yeah. And with the aerial bombardment and the artillery bombardment, yeah, the Iraqi army were totally demoralised. They really were. So during the 100 hours, as we're going through, we start to pick up prisoners. And it's something I will never ever forget, is the look on these Iraqi prisoners that we'd taken on. They had been treated like crap by their own people, their own hierarchy. They hadn't been fed, they hadn't been watered. Yeah, they were a ragtag army. They were literally just throwing down their arms and walking towards us. And of course, we just had to be extremely careful because we had no idea of their intentions. So, 28th of Feb was when the ceasefire was called. And by this time, we'd set ourselves up just south of the Mutla Ridge. In other words, just south of Basra. Like I say, Stormin Norman and Pete de la Billiere, yeah, had got it in their heads that we were going all the way. We were going to finish the job. We were going to obliterate the Republican Guard, which was at that time said to be Saddam's elite forces. Well, it was the Brits that took them on mainly. The Americans swept around to the west of us, and it was the British Army that took on the majority of the Republican Guard and defeated them. Mainly due to the fact we had superior equipment, such as at that time Challenger 1. Yeah, I mean, these guys were taking out the T-55s from kilometres away. So we set up and we're just now waiting to find out what's going on. It deemed that the United Nations had turned around and said that we completed our mission. Our mission was to liberate Kuwait, and we weren't to go further into Iraq to chase down Saddam and deal with it, which in my eyes was the biggest mistake we ever did. Yeah, we could have dealt with this back in 1991 rather than waiting all those years to the point where I think it was 2002, 2003, we had the Iraq War, which was all brought about, as we all know, by lies. Yeah, lies by politicians saying it had weapons of mass destruction. But whilst we were all waiting in the desert at the end of the Gulf War, 3 members of one of the fit sections, I can't remember if it was 132 battery or 176 battery, but 3 of the lads from the fit section of the battery decided to play rugby with one of our own bomblets. If you didn't know about the MLRS, they fired the rockets went over the target area and released these bomblets, which looked like hockey pucks, black hockey pucks. I mean, it's one of the things that the Iraqi prisoners said to us, what was that black rain that fell upon us? And that's what it was the bomblets from the MLRS. But 3 of the guys decided to play rugby with one, God knows why. And unfortunately, it went off. Now, fortunate for them, it went off in a way that all it did was injure them. And the other person that I'm going to talk about here is our regimental medic, a bloke called Chalky White. I'm not sure what his real name was, to be honest. I think it might have been Sean. But Sean was our medic. I'd known Chalky for a good number of years before the Gulf War. And he was an absolutely marvellous medic. Brilliant. I mean, prior to us going to war, when we were all in the desert in Saudi Arabia, we had these shower units that had been made by the Saudis. Basically all it was a big cast iron container with water in it on some planks of wood. And I'll never forget, myself and Chalky were eating scoff one night. We suddenly heard this screaming and shouting and everything. And what it was the legs of the shower unit had collapsed. And this container of water, which must have weighed a good ton or more, came down on top of one of the boys that was having a shower. So we ended up having to call a helicopter in for that to evacuate Scouse. Now, as I understand it, his vertebrae had been compressed. He was in a real bad way. But Chalky had tended to this guy. We built a tent around him. We managed to get him onto a pallet after we got the water container off. I mean, there was God knows how many blokes lifting this thing. There was no health and safety in them days, was there? You know, it was a case of we got a bloke underneath, water everywhere. But we managed to get a pallet and we got him on that, and we built a 9x9 around him. I was tasked with calling in the helicopter. At the time I was landing point commander trained, and what I did was I went off to the RHQ, got them to radio through, they radioed through, and the helicopter got dispatched. The only thing was the helicopter got dispatched down to Riyadh from Al Jubail. Reason being that they're going to pick up a doctor because there were some issues with medics in their sort of triaging of people. When the helicopter came in, I got it to land, got the doctor out. He went to the incident scene, and when he checked Scouse over, he actually turned around and said to us, well, we've wasted time here rather than the helicopter coming down to Riyadh and then up to you. It could have come straight from Al Jubail to you. Yeah, he was so impressed with the treatment that Chalky put in place. But like I say, at the end of the war, when we were in the desert, supposedly all safe and everything, we have this incident with these three lads with a bomblet. And again, Chalky gets dispatched, saves these three lads' lives. They had various shrapnel injuries and so on. And I believe Chalky got a BEM for his actions during the Gulf War. So we're in the desert and we're waiting to come home. Yeah. Now I must admit, we wrote a article, and I haven't got a copy of that one. So what I'm going to try and do is get in touch with the Royal Artillery Association, see if we can go through the archives of 39 Heavy for this magazine that was sent home to the families, because obviously what they wanted to do is to let the families know that things had gone okay if we hadn't lost anyone. Because obviously all we knew was the fact that the families were watching the news, and what they could have been told could have been anything. But like I say, the first article, I've got a copy of that one still, and I'll get that posted on this site. But like I say, this morning I woke up with a realisation of 34 years ago. Yeah. And it made me start to think back and understand that, you know, Nobs, you've been to war, mate. Yeah. A lot of people who have spoken to Second World War veterans, yeah, families of guys that were involved in the Second World War, yeah, said that their relatives never ever spoke about it. And I must admit, I never really spoke about it. It wasn't until just prior to me leaving the army in 2000, I had a mental breakdown. And one of the things was the Gulf War, Bosnia, and things like that. And it wasn't until then I started speaking to my family. Now, my daughter, at the time I went to the Gulf War, was only 6, and my son was 8. So I'm not going to tell them what Dad had seen or anything like that, am I? And even now, I rarely speak about it to my family. They know that I was there. They know that there were things that I'd seen. But I don't talk about it in detail to them. I don't even talk in detail to anyone, really. And maybe that's the wrong thing. This is why when we talk about PTSD and everything, when the lads came back from Afghanistan, they went through a decompression. Yeah, they went to Cyprus. I think it was about 2 weeks they'd been in Cyprus to sort of wind down. The Falklands and the Gulf War, there was no wind down period. All that happened, we got taken back to Blackadder lines. We then loaded our vehicles on the ships. We jumped on a plane and we got home. And I'll never forget, my arrival home, we flew into, I can't remember if it was Paderborn or Good. I don't think it was Goodstar, I think it was Paderborn. And then we got the coach back up to Dempsey Barracks. And the families were waiting for us. My mate Dusty got off the coach in front of me, and his wife Jackie was there. And of course, Jackie couldn't see me because I was behind Dusty. And as soon as she saw me, the look on her face was total shock. Yeah, and I looked around and I said to her, "Where's Irene and the kids?" And she went, "Irene's been told that you're not coming home on this flight." So I got off the coach, went up to the guard room, rang through to Irene, who was in the quarter, just down the road in Stenlager. And I said to her, do you want to come pick me up? And I could hear her voice saying, what do you mean, pick me up? I said, well, I'm in the barracks. So I stayed at the guard room. Everyone else had gone to the gymnasium, yeah, for a sort of greeting party. And I stayed up at the guard room on the top of the steps in Dempsey Barracks. When Irene turned up, at the same time, our padre had turned up. And he said to me, Son Clark, you're not going to come and join us. You know, we're having a celebration of the fact you're all coming home. And I said to him, with all due respect, padre, shove it. I said, I've arrived home. My wife didn't even know that I was coming home. I said, she had no idea. I said, so I'm in no mood for celebration. And sure enough, I went straight home. Following day, I actually got an interview with a colonel asking why I'd not arrived at the meet and greet. And I told him what reason why. Yeah. So, you know, the fact is miscommunication. My wife and my kids weren't part of it. I said, no, I didn't feel it right that I should go up to the gymnasium and celebrate. But like I say, you know, veterans rarely talk about their experiences. And maybe that's the wrong thing to do. You know, we lock ourselves away. I know guys from the Falklands, mates of mine that were involved in the Falklands, that have never talked about their experience. I know guys that were with me in the Gulf War, never talked about their experience. There's people that were involved in Bosnia, never talked about their experience. And like I say, we didn't have a decompression sort of period. We just had to get on with it. So, Gulf War, 1991. Again, there'll be no mention of it in the news or anything like that. I mean, I even went to the 25th anniversary at the Arboretum with Lisa, and they were unveiling the new memorial that's at the Arboretum for the Gulf War. And it was 25 years, and there was no mention in the media, on the news or anything like that, about the Gulf War. Now, with the Falklands, very rarely mentioned when it comes round to an anniversary, or even Korea, Aden, all of those, it's all forgotten. Yeah, people don't want to talk about it. I've had several people that in the past have come out and thanked me for my service. And it's great that they thank me for my service. But like I said before, what I'd like them to do is donate to a veterans charity. I'm not on about the RBL and the big ones, Help for Heroes. No, I'm not a great lover of those charities, as I've said before. But the smaller charities that tend to do a lot more for people. So today, it's just a case of coming out, walking, clearing my head, having a little chat with you guys. Yeah, and just explaining what the Gulf War was all about. I served with pride, and I'm still proud of this country. Keith posted a thing the other day about Defence Force. I'm 65 this year, and if it came to it, I would defend this country to the hill. I'm not on about defending the politicians because I've got no time for any of them. I'm on about the fact I'm going to defend this country for my children and my grandchildren. Now I'm willing to do that, and I know there's people out there that, I'd never do anything for this country. It's a crap hole. Yes, it's a crap hole, but it's our crap hole. Yeah. So when it comes down to defending it, if something that kicks off, I want to do so. We're in a very dangerous world at the moment. What with Mr. Trump, Mr. Putin kicking off, and the other people around the world. Good morning. The other people around the world that seem to just want to stir up trouble. And it's a frightening world. And my granddaughter, she'll be 10 this year. And I just want to make sure that it's going to be a safe place for her. And for my other granddaughter, who is now 18 months old and finally walking, I want to make sure it's safe for her. Also, my grandson, who I haven't seen now in about 19 years, he's got to be what, Christ? Well, I was 42 at the time, so he's 23 this year. I want to make sure it's safe for him. So I honestly believe people need to look at themselves and say, right, if I'm needed, will I? Yeah. It's not down to us veterans to do things. Or it shouldn't be down to us veterans to do things, I should say. But if by protecting the installations and the borders of this country, then I'll do it. Okay, well, I've waffled on for about half an hour here. I'm going to let you lovely people go. If you're new to the channel, same as Keith, consider subscribing. We're not telling you to do it. You've got your own minds. You do what you want. That's what us veterans have given you, freedom of speech. Whether it be the veterans from the First, Second World War, whatever. We've given you that right to freedom of speech. So don't waste it. Like I say, I'm going to carry on tabbing down, turn around and go home. It's a lovely day. It's turning into a lovely day. The sun's finally cracking out. So to all of you out there, please take care, stay safe, and as me and Keith always say, let's tab.